The tray tilted. Xena felt her fingers lose their grip before she understood why. Crystal glasses tumbled in slow motion, amber liquid arcing through the air like liquid gold under the chandelier's glow. Then the pain came. Sharp, blinding. Someone had her hair wrapped around his fist. The marble floor rushed toward her face as he dragged her forward. Her knees hit the ground with a crack that echoed through the aria lounge. The jazz stopped mid-note. Conversations died. Even the roulette wheel seemed to freeze mid-spin. 200 people, and not one of them moved. He was shouting something, slurred words about disrespect, about knowing her place, about teaching her a lesson. Xena's mind stayed sharp even as her scalp screamed. She cataloged exits, calculated distances, searched for security. But the lounge's guards stood frozen against the burgundy walls, their eyes carefully blank. Then she heard it. Not shouting, not running, just footsteps, slow, deliberate, the sound of expensive leather on polished marble. The drunk's grip loosened, not because he let go, but because his hands started shaking. A shadow fell across them both. Xena looked up through tears and saw him, the man from the corner booth, the one who'd sat there for 6 months, night after night, never speaking, never leaving. His face was carved from stone, but his eyes burned with something that made her stomach drop. He didn't look at the drunk. He looked at her. Just for a second. Just long enough for her to see something flicker in those dark, fathomless eyes. Recognition. Then he moved past them both, his black suit cutting through the crowd like a knife through silk. He walked to the entrance with the precision of a man who'd done this before, who'd planned for this. The heavy brass handle turned under his hand. The deadbolt engaged with a sound like a gunshot. Click. The entire lounge flinched. He withdrew a small brass key from the mechanism, held it up to the light so everyone could see it, then slipped it into his pocket with the care of a man pocketing a grenade pin. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried through the silence like smoke through glass. No one leaves this room until I say so. The drunk's hand fell away from Xena's hair, not out of mercy, out of fear, because Park Seo-jun had just turned the Aria Lounge into a cage, and everyone inside it had just become his prey. If you believe some doors should stay locked until justice is served, subscribe and join us for stories where power answers to loyalty. Comment locked in if you're ready to see how this ends. But to understand what happened next, you need to know how Xena ended up in that lounge in the first place. How a woman with a master's degree in digital architecture ended up serving drinks to millionaires. How a cybersecurity specialist who once designed systems for half the casinos in Vegas ended up hiding in plain sight. And most importantly, you need to know about the secret she'd buried 3 years ago. The one that saved a life. The one that connected her to the dangerous man who just locked every door. Because Park Seo-jun wasn't there by accident, and Xena wasn't just a waitress. They were both ghosts. And ghosts always have unfinished business. Seo-jun's men appeared like smoke materializing into solid form. They didn't rush in. They simply existed where they hadn't been before, stationed at every pillar, every shadow, every angle of sight. Bespoke suits stretched across shoulders built for violence, faces carved into masks of professional indifference. But Seo-jun ignored them all. His attention fixed entirely on Xena. She was still on her knees, chest heaving, one hand pressed against the cold marble as if the floor might anchor her to reality. Her white blouse had come untucked, revealing a sliver of brown skin at her waist. Her natural hair formed a wild halo around her face, and there was a tremor in her shoulders she couldn't quite control. He moved toward her with that same measured grace, each step deliberate. The crowd parted without being asked. When he reached her, he didn't immediately speak. He simply stood there, close enough that she could smell him. Sandalwood and rain, expensive cologne layered over something darker, more primal. "Look at me." His voice was quiet, almost gentle, but it commanded obedience. Xena lifted her gaze. Brown eyes met black, and something electric passed between them. Recognition. Fear. Something else she couldn't name but felt like heat spreading through her veins. "Stand up." It wasn't a suggestion. She rose on shaking legs, hyper-aware of how close he was, how his presence seemed to consume all the oxygen in the room. He was taller than she'd realized, broader, the kind of man who made space feel smaller just by existing in it. Only then did he turn to the drunk, who was now pale and sweating, backing away with his hands raised. "You put your hands on her." Seo-jun's tone didn't rise. Didn't need to. "Tell me why." "I didn't mean," she spilled. She spilled nothing. Each word dropped like a stone into still water. You grabbed her because you thought you could, because no one would stop you. The drunk's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Seojun took one step forward. Just one. The drunk crumpled to his knees as if an invisible hand had shoved him down. You were right, Sojun continued, circling the man like a predator assessing prey. No one stopped you, but that ends now, because I know things about you. I know about the offshore accounts, the embezzled funds, the wife who thinks you're working late, the mistress who's actually your partner's daughter. The drunk's face drained of all color. Seojun crouched down, bringing himself eye level with the trembling man. I could ruin you with a phone call. One conversation. Your life would end before sunrise. He paused, let the silence stretch into agony. But I'm going to let you walk out of here. After you apologize. On your knees. To her. The man's eyes darted to Xena, then back to Sojun, searching for mercy in a face that offered none. Now. The drunk stammered through an apology Xena didn't hear. Her mind was elsewhere, spiraling through calculations and connections, trying to understand how this man, this dangerous, beautiful man, knew to be here, knew to care. Seojun dismissed the drunk with a flick of his wrist. His men escorted the stumbling figure toward a side door that somehow unlocked at their approach, then sealed again the moment he was gone. Then Sojun's attention returned to her, and the weight of it made her breath catch. Come with me. It wasn't a question, but Xena found herself nodding anyway. He turned and walked toward the back of the lounge, past the bar, past the private gambling rooms, to a glass-walled office she'd never been allowed to enter. The door closed behind them with a soft click. Suddenly the noise of the lounge felt distant, muffled, as if they'd stepped into another world entirely. The office was sleek and minimal, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Vegas Strip, a mahogany desk with nothing on it except a single laptop, leather chairs that looked more like thrones. But what caught Xena's attention was the wall of monitors behind the desk, each one cycling through security feeds, including the one that showed her, 6 months ago, installing the very cameras now recording them. Her blood went cold. Sojun moved to a small bar cart, poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into crystal glasses. He held one out to her. You're trembling. I'm fine. But her voice betrayed her, shaking almost as much as her hands. You're not. He pressed the glass into her palm, his fingers brushing hers. The touch lasted a fraction too long to be accidental. Drink. She did. The whiskey burned. But it was a good burn, something real and grounding. He watched her with those fathomless eyes, reading her like she was code he'd already decrypted. You want to know why I locked the doors. I want to know why you were here at all. The words came out sharper than she intended. 6 months. Same booth. Same time. Watching. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Not watching. Waiting. For what? For you to recognize me. Xena's heart stuttered. She studied his face, searching for something familiar, but came up empty. I don't know you. Not my face. He set his glass down, moved closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. But you know my life. You saved it. 3 years ago. You were the ghost. The glass almost slipped from her hand. The ghost. The code name she'd used when she leaked the corporate files, when she'd exposed the assassination plot buried in financial transactions nobody else could trace. She'd done it anonymously, sent everything to the authorities, then disappeared into obscurity. That was you, she whispered. That was me. His voice dropped lower, intimate. You exposed my business partner's betrayal. You prevented 12 murders, including mine, and then you vanished. I had to. I know. He reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed a strand of hair from her face. His fingers were warm, surprisingly gentle. I've been looking for you ever since. Xena's mind raced, trying to reconcile the man in front of her with the faceless target she'd saved. You're Park Seo-jun. And you're Xena Okafor, digital architect, security specialist. The woman brilliant enough to design the Aria Lounge's entire infrastructure, and humble enough to serve drinks in the building she made impenetrable. He knew everything. The realization should have terrified her. Instead, it made something dangerous unfurl in her chest. Why didn't you approach me before tonight? Because I needed to be sure. He moved past her to the monitors, pulled up footage from tonight. I needed to know if the assault was random or staged. Xena's blood chilled. Staged? Sojun replayed the feed, pointed to details she'd been too traumatized to notice. The way the drunk had positioned himself near the exact blind spot in the camera coverage. The lounge manager's subtle nod just before the attack. The security guard's synchronized decision to look away. He wasn't drunk, Sojun said quietly. He's a professional. Someone hired him to provoke me, to make me commit a public crime that would strip my legitimacy. But he actually hurt me. Her voice cracked despite her best effort. Something flickered across Sojun's face. Rage, tightly leashed. He turned to her, and for the first time, she saw past the calculated exterior to the man beneath. That wasn't supposed to happen. He improvised, made it real to sell the performance. He crossed the space between them in 2 strides, stopped close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. His hand lifted to her face, thumb tracing the line of her jaw where the drunk's grip had left a faint mark. "This," he said, voice rough with barely contained fury. This wasn't part of anyone's plan. The touch was feather-light, but it ignited something in her. A reckless, desperate need to feel something other than fear. She leaned into it without thinking, and his breath hitched. "You've been protecting me," she said. "All this time. The booth, the waiting. You weren't stalking me. You were standing guard. I owed you a debt." His thumb moved to her lower lip, barely grazing the soft skin. "But that's not why I stayed." "Then why?" His eyes darkened, and the air between them grew thick with unspoken things. "Because walking away from you wasn't possible." Seojun stepped back abruptly, as if proximity itself was dangerous. He returned to the monitors, pulled up more footage. "There's something else you need to see." Xena forced herself to focus, though her skin still hummed where he'd touched her. On screen, the lounge manager appeared in a back hallway, speaking to someone just outside camera range. Money changed hands. "He sold you out," Sojun said. "Took 30,000 to facilitate tonight's attack. The drunk, the professional, knew exactly when you'd be serving that section. Knew exactly where security would be positioned. Betrayal tasted like copper on her tongue. Marcus hired me, trained me, I thought. You thought people were better than they are." Sojun's voice carried no judgment, only a weary understanding. "It's why you hide. Why you serve drinks instead of designing the systems you're capable of creating. You learned the world punishes brilliance." He pulled up another feed, this one showing the exterior. Black SUVs lined the street, positioned at every exit. "Rival family," he explained. "They're waiting for law enforcement to arrive, waiting for me to be arrested for assault or false imprisonment. Once I'm in custody, I'm vulnerable. This whole thing was a trap." Xena moved closer to the screens, her architect's mind automatically analyzing the positions, calculating angles. They blocked the main exits but missed the service corridors. "Did they?" Seojun glanced at her, something almost like pride in his expression. Understanding dawned. "No, I designed redundancies, hidden passages in the infrastructure that don't appear on any blueprint." "I know." He turned to face her fully. "Because I bought them. Every architectural sketch you sold anonymously online for the past 3 years. I purchased all of them." The world tilted. "Why?" "Because your genius was rotting in obscurity. Because I couldn't stand watching you diminish yourself." He moved closer again. Drawn by gravity, neither of them could fight. "Because from the moment I learned the ghost was a woman who designed buildings like poems, I needed to know you. All of you." His confession hung in the air like smoke, beautiful and suffocating. Xena's hands trembled, but not from fear anymore. "What happens now?" Seojun's jaw tightened. "Now we prove you're not the only one who can win a war without firing a shot. Whether you're watching from New York, London, Lagos, or anywhere loyalty still means something, hit that subscribe button. Because some secrets are worth 6 months of waiting, and some doors should only open for the right person. Drop your city below and let us know where you're locked in." Sojun moved to his laptop with predatory efficiency. His fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up screens Xena recognized immediately. Financial systems, encrypted databases, the digital architecture of power itself. "Come here." She crossed to him, stood at his shoulder, close enough to feel the heat of him, to catch that scent of sandalwood that made her head swim. On screen, bank accounts materialized. Millions. Tens of millions. All connected to a web of shell corporations. "This is the rival family's entire operation," Sojun explained, his voice low and intimate despite the violence of what he was showing her. "Everything they've built over 30 years. Every dollar, every asset, Every secret they think is buried deep enough to stay hidden. Zena's breath caught. She saw the architecture instantly. The same patterns she'd exposed 3 years ago. The same signatures of corruption and blood money. They're using the same systems, the same vulnerabilities. I know. He turned his head slightly, and suddenly their faces were inches apart. His eyes burned with something dark and hungry. Because I've been waiting for you to help me dismantle them. You want me to. I want you to do what you do best. Ghost through their systems, drain every account, erase every backup. Make them disappear without firing a single shot. His hand found hers on the desk, covered it completely. Will you? It was a test. A question about who she was beneath the fear, beneath the hiding. Zena stared at their hands, his scarred and tattooed, hers trembling and uncertain. She thought about 3 years of obscurity, 3 years of making herself small, 3 years of pretending her brilliance was a curse instead of a weapon. Show me the access point. Something fierce and approving flashed across his face. He pulled up another screen, but he didn't move his hand from hers. If anything, his grip tightened, grounding her, claiming her. The main server is in their headquarters building. But you designed that building's infrastructure too, didn't you? Zena's eyes widened. The Apex Tower, 2 years ago, anonymous contract. Understanding crashed over her. You've been planning this. I've been planning you. His thumb traced circles on her wrist, a gesture so intimate it made her pulse race. Every move, every preparation. I just needed you to stop running long enough to stand beside me. She should have been angry, should have felt manipulated. Instead, she felt seen, understood, desired in a way that had nothing to do with her body and everything to do with her mind. Then, let's end this. Her fingers joined his on the keyboard. They moved in sync, a dance of code and consequence. She navigated through back doors she'd installed years ago, bypasses she'd hidden in plain sight. Within minutes, they were inside the rival family's financial empire. Transfer protocols? She asked. Offshore accounts. Untraceable. I'll give you the routing numbers. They worked in silence, broken only by keystrokes and breathing. The tension between them built with every transaction, every million erased, every empire crumbled. His shoulder pressed against hers. His breath warmed her neck when he leaned in to point at the screen. When the final account emptied, when the rival family's 30-year legacy dissolved into nothing, Sojun's hand slid to the small of her back. You just won a war, he murmured. We did, she corrected. His smile was dangerous and beautiful. Yes, we did. The phone on Sojun's desk rang, not a ringtone, a sharp, old-fashioned bell that cut through the tension like a knife. He glanced at the screen, and something cold settled in his expression. It's them. Zena's heart hammered. Already? They'll have received the alerts by now. Every account frozen, every asset seized. He picked up the phone, put it on speaker. His voice when he answered was silk over steel. Speak. Park Sojun. The voice that crackled through was aged, furious, desperate. You've made a fatal mistake. Have I? Sojun's hand remained on Zena's back, an anchor in the storm. I'd say your mistake was made tonight. Hiring amateurs, staging an assault you thought would break me. That waitress means nothing. Say her name. The command in Sojun's voice made even Zena shiver. Say her name, or this conversation ends. Silence. Then, reluctantly, Zena Okafor. Good, now tell her who you are. Another pause, longer this time. Zena felt ice spreading through her veins. Something in that voice, something familiar beneath the rage. Tell her, Sojun repeated, or I release the files, every crime, every murder, every betrayal. I'll bury your bloodline in a grave so deep no one will remember your name existed. Jonathan Okafor. The name came out like a curse. I'm Jonathan Okafor. The room spun. Zena gripped the edge of the desk, her knuckles going pale. Uncle Jonathan? Hello, Zena. Her uncle, the man who'd raised her father, the man who'd disappeared 15 years ago after her father's company collapsed, after accusations of fraud destroyed everything the Okafor name had built. You framed him. Her voice came out broken, jagged. My father went to prison because of you. He died there. And you've been here the whole time. Running crime syndicates while we lost everything. Your father was weak. He would have destroyed what our grandfather built. So you destroyed it yourself? Rage replaced shock, burning through her like acid. You stole his life. My mother's life. You made us ghosts. And now you're working with Park Seo-joon? Jonathan's laugh was bitter. You think he's better than me? He's a killer. A monster. He'll use you and discard you like everyone else. Seo-joon's hand moved from her back to her hip, possessive and reassuring. The difference, he said quietly, is that I value her. You traded her for power. I'm giving her power back. By destroying my family? By destroying a criminal empire built on her family's corpse. Seo-joon pulled Zena closer, and she let him, needing the solid warmth of him against the cold betrayal flooding through her. You have 1 hour to turn yourself in to the FBI. After that, I release everything. Every document, every recording, every body. You're bluffing. Am I? Seo-joon nodded to Zena. She understood. Her fingers found the keyboard again, pulled up files she'd uncovered years ago when she was trying to clear her father's name, files she'd been too afraid to use, too afraid of the man behind them. Now she sent them, all of them, to Seo-joon's secure server, to the FBI, to every news outlet that mattered. 59 minutes, Seo-joon said, and ended the call. The silence after the call felt apocalyptic. Zena stood frozen, processing revelations that rewrote her entire history. Her uncle, the man she'd mourned, the man she'd believed was a victim of the same forces that destroyed her father. He'd been the architect of it all. You knew, she turned to Seo-joon, searching his face. You knew who he was when you found me. Yes. That's why you've been protecting me. Not gratitude. Strategy. His jaw tightened. It started as strategy. Keeping you safe kept leverage against him. But that changed the first time I watched you work. The first time I saw you move through the lounge like you owned it even though they made you invisible. He stepped closer, crowding her against the desk. It stopped being strategy the night you stayed late to fix the security system. You thought no one was watching, but I was. I saw you talking to the code like it was alive, like it mattered. His hand came up to cradle her face, tilting it toward his. The touch was reverent, almost worshipful, and it made her breath catch. I fell in love with your mind first, he continued, his voice dropping to something raw and unguarded. Your brilliance, your defiance, the way you made yourself small but couldn't quite hide the empire inside you. And then I fell in love with everything else. Your kindness to the staff, your patience with the drunk customers who didn't deserve it, the way you hum when you think no one's listening. Zena's eyes burned. You can't love me. You don't even know me. I know you saved my life when you had nothing to gain from it. I know you designed buildings like poetry when the world told you to be practical. I know you're terrified right now, but you're standing here anyway because you're the bravest person I've ever met. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I know when I touch you, you stop breathing. Just like this. He was right. Her lungs had frozen. Every nerve ending focused on the point where his skin met hers. Seo-joon, tell me you don't feel this. His other hand found her waist, pulled her flush against him. Tell me you don't lie awake wondering what it would be like. Tell me you haven't been watching me the same way I watch you. She couldn't, because she had been. 6 months of peripheral glances, 6 months of awareness, 6 months of wondering what it would feel like to be consumed by something this dangerous, this inevitable. I feel it, she whispered. His eyes darkened with triumph and something deeper. Hunger, need, the kind that had nothing to do with strategy and everything to do with want. Then stop fighting it. He kissed her, not gently, not asking permission. He claimed her mouth like he'd been starving for it, like he'd waited 6 months for this exact moment and wouldn't waste another second being careful. Zena's world tilted. She grabbed his shirt for balance, then for leverage, pulling him closer because suddenly there was no such thing as close enough. He tasted like whiskey and danger, and when his tongue swept against hers, she made a sound she'd never made before, desperate and surrendering and demanding all at once. His hands were everywhere, her waist, her back, tangled in her hair. He lifted her onto the desk without breaking the kiss, stepped between her thighs, and the intimacy of it made her gasp against his mouth. Tell me to stop, he breathed against her lips. Don't you dare. The rest of the night blurred into sensation. At some point they left the office, moved through the lounge that was still locked, still waiting. Seo-joon's men stood guard but didn't look at them, didn't acknowledge the way Zena's blouse was untucked, the way Seo-joon's careful control had fractured into something more human. They ended up in his penthouse, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Vegas, a space as sleek and dangerous as the man who owned it. The FBI will move on your uncle within the hour, Seojun said, pouring them both water because neither of them could handle more whiskey. He'll try to run, but there's nowhere left. We took everything. We, Xena repeated. The word felt significant. Permanent. We. He handed her the glass, his fingers lingering on hers. You're not alone anymore. You understand that? She did. For the first time in 3 years, she felt the weight of solitude lift. What happens now? Now you stop hiding. He moved closer, traced the curve of her jaw with one finger. You take your place in the world. You design buildings under your own name. You show everyone what the ghost can do when she stops being invisible. And you? His smile was slow, predatory, possessive. I'm wherever you are. Your partner, your shield, your empire. The word hung between them. Empire. Not his empire, not hers. Theirs. I'm not like you, she said. I don't know how to be ruthless. How to? You liquidated a criminal organization in 17 minutes. You exposed corruption that sent men to death row. You survived 3 years of hiding and came out stronger. He cupped her face in both hands. You're exactly like me. You just have better PR. She laughed, and it felt like freedom, like breathing after being underwater too long. Stay, he said. Not just tonight. Stay. Build something with me. Something that matters. Xena thought about the girl she'd been. The one who'd leaked files and ran. The one who'd served drinks and hidden. The one who'd made herself small enough to disappear. She didn't want to be that girl anymore. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. His kiss was gentler this time. A promise instead of a claim. When he pulled back, his eyes held something that looked like reverence. Then let's show them what an empire looks like when it's built on loyalty instead of fear. 1 year later, Xena stood atop the tallest tower in Vegas. One she'd designed, one that bore her name in letters visible from the airport, the Okafor Tower. A monument to survival, to brilliance, to the girl who became a ghost and then became a queen. Seojun found her at the window, wrapped his arms around her waist from behind. Our work, she corrected, leaning back into him. Ours, he agreed, pressing a kiss to her temple. Always ours. Below them, Vegas glittered like scattered diamonds. Above them, stars competed with neon, and between them, something rare and dangerous and unbreakable. An empire of two, built on locked doors and second chances, on code and consequence, on the belief that some debts are paid in devotion, and some wars are won without a single drop of blood. Xena smiled. She was no longer the girl being dragged across the floor. She was the woman who owned the sky. Some empires are built on fear. Others are built on loyalty that refuses to break. If you believe brilliance deserves protection, and second chances can rebuild kingdoms, subscribe to our stories where the underestimated become unstoppable. Comment Empire if you're ready for more tales where love is the most dangerous weapon of all.